me like, you love 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 me like, I don't wanna see your face no more, that you on the dance floor.
Hey guys, welcome to my channel. Today I will be showing you guys 3 different ways to crop your sweatshirts. It's very easy, very simple. You don't have to have any type of like sewing experience, sewing skills. You don't even need a sewing machine. Honestly, you can hand stitch this, but for the purpose of the video I will be using a sewing machine because hand stitching just takes way too long. But the sweatshirts that I will be using for this video will be this sweatshirt. It's just a plain basic gray sweatshirt. I thrifted this. It just says Banana Republic on it, and it's just, you know, plain and basic sweatshirt. The other sweater that I will be using will be, well, this isn't really a sweatshirt, but it's like kind of like a sweatshirt. It's like a sweater material. It's got a little hoodie on it, but I had something in mind that would be pretty dope. The last sweatshirt that I will be using is this tie-dye sweatshirt. For this video, you will need a set of pins. You will need both safety pins and then regular pins. You will also need either a rotary cutter or a pair of scissors. You will need eyelets, an eyelet tool, and then a hammer to use to hammer down the eyelets. A seam ripper and then thread that will match your sweatshirt. And you will need some sort of ruler. I have this giant ruler. It doesn't need to be this big. And then either a needle and thread or your sewing machine. First, you want to start by putting on your sweatshirt so you can figure out how much you want it to be cropped. You're going to fold the sweatshirt up. For this sweatshirt, we will be reattaching the hem, so keep that in consideration. And once you figure out exactly how short you want it to be, take your piece of chalk and make a mark at that spot. Okay, so you're going to take your ruler, and where you made that mark at when you tried on your sweatshirt, you're just going to draw a straight line. And as you can see, I messed up my first line, so I'm just going back over it with the chalk and cutting straight across. You can take the top part of your hoodie and set that to the side for now, and then just take the bottom part of your hoodie. And as you can see, I have my seam ripper here. And you're going to start ripping the seam that bonds together, like the bottom piece of the sweatshirt where the pocket is, to the hem of the sweatshirt that's at the bottom of the sweatshirt. Because we're going to take that piece and then reattach it to the hoodie to make the cropped sweatshirt. Once you finish ripping off that band from the bottom of your sweatshirt, you want to take that band and attach it to the bottom piece of your sweatshirt, but make sure that you have it flipped upside down so that once everything is sewn, it fits correctly. And as you can see in the top right hand corner, I had to re-sew the band because I put it around my waist where the sweatshirt was going to sit, and it was a little bit too big on me, and I didn't notice that at first, which is why I didn't film it. But if that's the same case for you, you just want to take it, see about how many inches you want to take off, go ahead on and cut it, and then put a stitch through it. And I did the serger, but you don't need a serger. You could do just either a straight stitch or a zigzag stitch if you're going for that more finished look. But of course, since I had to trim the band, the width no longer matched the bottom of the sweatshirt, so I'm making these little tiny folds in the sweatshirt to make sure that it fits properly and lines up correctly once it is sewn. And you'll see, yeah, you can see me making these little folds. But once you finish pinning everything together, you just want to flip it down, make sure you like the way that it looks, and then sew a stitch straight across the bottom, and you will then be finished with the sweatshirt. So once it's sewn, this is pretty much what it's going to look like, and you'll see the finished results in just a minute. And here are the final results of the first sweatshirt, and I really like the way this one turned out. I used white thread, which is why you can see that, but if you use thread that matches, you will not have that problem. For this second sweatshirt, you just want to go ahead on and mark exactly where it is that you want it to be cropped. Take your scissors and cut a straight line down. This time I did not use chalk as a guide to cut this sweatshirt. I just used my ruler to have a straight line. Then you want to take that bottom piece of your sweatshirt and cut it open because we are going to be using that to make a string. Here I'm using my rotary cutter and my ruler to cut a straight line because with as stretchy as this material was, the scissors were not working. They were not cutting it. No, I'm just kidding. And then you want to take that string, fold it in half, and just make sure that everything is lined up properly. It doesn't have to be a perfectly straight line, but you do want it to be pretty even. And then you're going to fold your fabric in half with those stitches on the outside that I'm pointing to right now, because when you sew it, you do not want when you flip it inside out, I should say, you do not want those on the outside. Then you're going to pin straight down, and then once you pin everything, you're going to sew a straight line on the outside of that where the edge is open. You want to take your string and turn it inside out, and for some reason I did not record this. I'm not sure why, but basically you're going to take that string that you just made, take your sweatshirt and turn it inside out, get your pins ready, and then start hemming the bottom of your sweatshirt. But before you sew anything, you want to make sure that your string is going to fit through your sweatshirt, or else it will not work correctly. I forgot to mention that I made the hem about 3/4 of an inch, but I'm just going ahead on and sewing down, and I'm leaving that little hoop open that I'm pointing to so that we're able to loop the string through. And I'm laying my sweatshirt down, taking my ruler, measuring the halfway point, and then making a little mark 1 inch to the right and 1 inch to the left, and making a couple of slits so that once we string the string through, we have something to pull through. And you don't want to cut the back of your sweatshirt. You only want to cut the front, of course, so I'm kind of pulling the back of that to make sure that it's out of the way and make sure that I don't accidentally slit that open. Once I do that, I'm putting a safety pin around the ends of my string and looping it through the sweatshirt. And once you have it all the way looped through, you just want to find that little hole that we left open and sew it closed, and you are now finished with your sweatshirt. I did tie the ends of my string to make it look more finished, and this is what the finished results looked like, and I'm overall very satisfied with how this one turned out. I didn't realize that it had those little slits in the shoulders before I started, but paired with a jean jacket, I still think it is very cute. For the final sweatshirt, this one's a bit oversized, so I will be taking it down to fit me better, and I'm just starting out by laying my sweatshirt on top, the first sweatshirt that I made, and tracing around it and leaving about 2 inches of extra space for seam allowance and just for extra room in case I'm not satisfied with the fit. You always want to make sure that you have, more fabric than less, because you can always take away more, but you can't add more fabric. And I'm just trimming around exactly where I made those chalk lines at. Once everything is pinned up, you just want to go ahead on and sew along the sides, and you can use either a straight stitch or a zigzag stitch if you want a more secured hold. I did end up using the serger, which of course is not necessary. I just prefer to use that. You're going to go ahead on and hem the bottom of the sweatshirt, sew a straight stitch along the bottom, but make sure that you leave a loop for that cord to go through so we can string it through. Once it's sewn, you want to turn it right side around, take your ruler, and find the halfway mark of your sweatshirt. And once you find that halfway mark, you're just going to make a dot 1 inch to the right and 1 inch to the left. And I did sew my sweatshirt a little bit crooked, but I will fix that at another time. I didn't notice it until just now. Then you're going to take your scissors, cut a little tiny hole in where you made those dots. You do not want the hole to be super big, because if it's too big, then your eyelets will not catch the fabric and they'll just end up falling right out, which I've made that mistake before. Trust me, you do not want to do that. Just take your eyelets, take a bottom piece, take a top piece, and get your eyelet toolkit. You can read the eyelet toolkit, but basically what you do is put the bottom eyelet in the sweatshirt, put the top eyelet on top of that bottom piece, then take that little black piece and take that metal piece which goes on top and get your hammer and just hammer it down like 2 to 3 times. You don't need to hammer it too many times, or else the fabric in the back will get stuck in the eyelet and you don't want that problem. So I just went ahead on, and I didn't hammer it enough, so I hammered it a couple more times just until it's secured and it fits. And you want to go ahead on and repeat that step on the second side. You do want to make sure that the back piece is in the back and the front piece is in the front, or else it'll be backwards and you'll have fabric showing through the front of your eyelet, which you don't want. But once you get those eyelets attached, you want to go ahead on, take your safety pin and take your cord and stick your safety pin through your piece of cord and close that safety pin and begin looping the cord through the sweatshirt through that little tiny hole that we left open in the back. And once you get it looped through the entire sweatshirt, you're going to take the safety pin and pull it through the eyelet hole. After you pull it through that first eyelet hole, you're just going to push it back down through the second eyelet hole and loop the safety pin back around so that the two ends of the cord meet one another. I did not film this part either. I'm not sure why. You're going to put on your sweatshirt and make sure that you have the desired length of cord so that like when you pull it, you have enough stretch to it. It's not too tight, it's not too loose, and you also have some cord hanging off of the sweatshirt. And once you have tried it on and you get your desired fit, you're going to go ahead on and tie a triple knot. You don't have to sew those two ends together. If you want a more secured hold, you can put a top stitch on top of the knot. And then I'm just taking my cord stopper. In that little hole that you see there, you're going to push the loop through that hole, and then boom, you have, your little drawstring attached to your sweatshirt. That little loop that we left open is just going to get sewn shut, and then once you sew that shut, you are all finished with your sweatshirt. Okay, so here is the final results on the tie-dye sweatshirt. This was actually, it turned out a lot cuter than I was expecting it to turn out. But so we downsized it so that it fits better. I didn't shorten the sleeves on it, I just tightened them so it's got like this baggy effect going on. And then this is the drawstring. You can make it like a loose one if you want it to be, or you can pull it up and have it be this like tight little cute sweatshirt. And I accidentally made the cord a little bit longer than I wanted to, but I still think it turned out really cute overall. I'm very satisfied with how it turned out. So yeah.